Hello lads and ladies, and welcome back for another video on the channel. Today we are going through League 2 once again. The promotion race is heating up. We did a video about a month ago with Jack Goodwin. Today we are joined by Jack Kershaw. It must be a thing on this channel, get all the Jacks on. It's very heated up there. We've got an automatic promotion race, which is unbelievable. We had goals galore the other day, and you can even, quite frankly, go as low down in that League 2 table as far down as 11th of looking at who's going to get into the top 7. Probably now looking at 5 clubs for maybe 2 spots, 5 or 6 clubs for 2 spots. And then you're probably looking at 6 clubs for 3 spots inside the top 3 as well. Jack, how are we doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm okay, thank you. Are you?
Yeah, I'm very good. It's very nice to be on this show and not have to talk about Fleet winning a playoff race, because every time that Phil, who I commentate with, we win a game, he gets a bit excited. He goes, the playoffs are only 6 points away. There's going to be none of that as Fleetwood Town, unfortunately. Jack sit 10 points outside the playoffs with 4 to go. It ain't happening. From the outside, the Crew are still in with a fighting chance. When they beat Chesterfield on the 1st of March, I thought, here we go. Losing Shiloh Tracy 3 days later in a 4-1 defeat to Fleetwood. And then since then, draws away at Salford and at home to Doncaster. Don't get me wrong, I think those are 2 good points against 2 rivals at the time as well. Then going away at Notts County and drawing. But I think that recent loss against Port Vale at the end of March, who for me will come to in a minute, will win the league, and that performance away at Bradford and then at home to Cheltenham, I felt if you could just get a point away at Bradford and beat Cheltenham, things look a little bit different.
Yeah, and when you look at probably, the forward line that Crew have got now, because like I say, injuries to Tracy and Lancaster, which, both of them you wouldn't even specify as 2 number 9s anyway. They've just had to operate there because of injuries. And then you look at Bogle and Hemmings, 2 number 9s. Bogle's never had a sort of career where, he's a proven goal scorer. He had 1 campaign at Newport where I think he scored 19. And then Kane Hemmings sort of been in dribs and drabs for him, really. Stayed in the playoffs last season and got to Wembley, but then dropped out. And maybe, it's obviously happened again that up to January they're in the top 3, but now they've actually dropped out, obviously, to 11th. And some Crew fans are questioning, why we're picking up so many injuries and, all that sort of stuff. And it's a technical side for Crew. Pete Wild said that they're one of the sides in the division which, they want to make it a tactical game. But then, when, like you said, when you got 49 goals, which is the joint lowest in the top 16 in at League 2, it is worrying signs of how you need to get into their playoff spot, because the defence is tight. But then it can only be so much tight like Burnley's, where that's when you're properly relying on the defence to get you in the playoffs.
Salford City are another team that are just outside those playoff spaces after a good little bit of form, to be fair to them. They've now won 3 of the last 5, drawing the other 2, beat Notts County away from home the other day to keep their slim hopes of a playoff spot available. They have got 5 games remaining in the division as well, which is going to be important. Now, Jack, home to Doncaster Rovers is a massive game. If they can just get a point there to go within 4, they've then got home matches against Accrington Stanley and Colchester, who are a direct rival, and their 2 away games are currently against the bottom 2 sides in the division in Morecambe and Carlisle. Carl Robinson's sides are very patchy. They get better as seasons go on. They've been a little bit hit and miss all season. Again, 13 draws, too many draws, only the 53 goals, but they've still got a small chance. With those fixtures coming up, do you think it's a possibility, especially having that game in hand, against a very good Doncaster side that have won nearly half the matches?
Yeah, it's definitely doable, because, anyone can beat anyone in this division. They went to Notts County, big pitch, and then, they beat them 3-1. And when Salford were going on their run to get them into the, top 7, I don't think they were doing anything sort of special to get in there. It was maybe a bit like Gillingham at the start of the season, where, give Salford credit, they were scoring, more goals there. But then I think, the humbling at Man City, losing 8-0, which obviously, isn't anything to lose sleep on because it's Man City at the end of the day against a League Two side. But then obviously they got beat by Fleetwood, and then they even had that thing where they played Matty Young in goal and they dropped him for Jamie Jones, and they had stuff going on like that. But Colchester, the second to last game of the season, could define everything for him, and I think they've got a decent squad, to be honest. Kelly Nemar, I think, has improved as season's gone on. Forner and Adelican, it's sort of that sort of triangle on the left hand side. It's been really strong, but then you look at that maybe left hand side. Keep Adelican at left wing back. He's going to come up against Luke Molyneux. It's going to be a bit of a weakness considering maybe his work ethic and off the ball stature, but it's going to be interesting because I think Salford have got a decent sort of blend between making it more direct, but also utilising the technical play as well. So yeah, I think they've got a good chance. And when you list the fixtures like that, it's probably the most favourable running out of the teams in the playoff picture.
A lot of clubs in there. Chesterfield are another one that have got a point more than Salford, but have now won 3 of their last 5. They've drawn one, but lost one as well. But that loss was to Tranmere, where they were pretty horrific, to be fair, in that game as well. 2 games against Gillingham and Fleetwood at home, probably favourable home games, if I'm honest with you. They have got a tough run in, to be fair to them. Wimbledon away, Bradford at home. Morecambe at home would be probably the easier of it, and Aki as well. Chesterfield, you watched them the other day. They've got players coming back from injury in recent weeks and months. Will Grigg, Paddy Madden, just to name a couple. They struggled in the middle of the season after they lost key players in Mark Handy and Berry, but you can see why they've come up and had a real go. To come up from the National League and finish in the top 10 is a really good season for them, but they'll be a bit frustrated that they think it could be more.
I think injuries have done them dirty a bit this season. Obviously, all clubs have suffered with injuries, but I think Chesterfield will be the side that have suffered, won the most in the division. And sometimes when you look at the goals they conceded, Ryan Boot in goal and Jamie Grimes at centre half, Boot weren't the keeper in the National League. It was Harry Tyra, who's now at Blackpool, and Jamie Grimes. When Chesterfield have got the starting centre halves, Shea Dunkley you get back in, and now they're favouring Ash Palmer, and also they've got Cal McFadzean. So they've got an experienced group. I think if Chesterfield didn't have as many injuries, it would have been a top 3 side after. But then Morecambe and Accrington last game, you think Chesterfield's quality is going to really show against sides Morecambe and Accrington, where you're looking at maybe a National League standard squad with them too.
Colchester United, someone's underdogs. 17 draws this season. A lot earlier in the season, they've now started to win narrow games. Now, when I have a look at their last, since February onwards, let's say, they beat Walsall by 2-1 in the last, kind of with 16 minutes to go, they scored that goal. And then they did draw the next 3 games after that. But in March, especially where they started to win games of football, they built Milton Keynes Dons 1-0 with an 87th minute penalty. They beat Chesterfield 1-0, which was a decent win at home for them. They beat Cheltenham 1-0 away, narrow game again. Port Vale 2-1 at home, where they scored in the 86 minutes through Kelleher. Then they beat Fleetwood 3-0 in a game that was nothing in it, and then they scored 1 and they went on a rampage and deserved to win the game. Lost to Bradford heavily, but 20-odd thousand in the crowd, good side. And then they lost to Grimsby, but they've backed those results up since, a point away at Gillingham, and then narrowly beat Notts County 1-0. And then they did beat Notts 2-0, but an 88th and a 94th minute goals basically for them. They're doing the things they weren't doing in the earlier parts of the season, where if they were on top, they weren't just quite converting the chances, and they're now winning games of football. But Danny Cowley, Nicky Cowley, the side they built, is a real togetherness, together as one.
Yeah, I like what Colchester have done, at the start of the season. You're thinking, maybe how are they going to maybe leapfrog up the table, to be honest. I think maybe losing Lyle Taylor might be a bit of a miss for him. Obviously, he went off against Newport. I don't know how severe the injury is, but obviously it'll be a miss. So, really it's looking at Samson Tavide to sort of step in, who He's been in and out, but also has suffered with injury. So it'll be a big sort of next 4 games for him to stay fit and contribute like he has been doing. But yeah, I think looking at the games, Crew at home, you'd probably fancy him to beat them. Doncaster away, it'll be tough. Salford away, it'll be tough. And Barrow at home, I think they could win that. So I think if they just get a point in one of the away games, win the home games, I think they'll give Grimsby a really really tough test. And I know that you said for Grimsby it don't matter about the goal difference, but when the 1 point between each other, and if it goes down to the last day level on points, Grimsby -1 goal difference, Colchester +11. You'll know who's getting in the playoffs.
Comment about that goal difference a while ago. My thoughts on that, yes, I could see that. If you win enough games, if Grimsby won every single game between now and the end of the season, in my eyes, they're in the playoffs. And
Is
then
that
that's where goal
realistic though? Obviously.
no, it's not realistic, but if you've got to do your job. If you want to be in the playoffs, you don't want to be reliant on goal difference. It's 46 games. You know, well, you got to 42 games and you're in it. You know, it's 4 games. It can happen. Colchester won 4 on the spin. You never know, and they're not going to get a 12-goal swing now on Colchester unless there's an absolute battering. Swindon at home, we should call more favourable because their seasons are over. But Swindon are in good form. Scored 9 goals in 2.
Yeah, Swindon
But
aren't any pushover. Obviously, a week
exactly.
Bradford.
The Holloway effect as well. He's going to go there. I tell you what, there'll be a keen eye on that. See how he's treated there. I think that'll be a nice day for him. I think that Port Vale away, tough game, Championes, and then home to Wimbledon. And to be fair, Wimbledon aren't completely out of it. They're 3 points in front. If you beat Wimbledon and you win all your 3 games, there might be a possibility where Wimbledon slip up in their other 3 games. You finish above them. So he's not just doing the best over the teams below you. Grimsby have got to look at targeting Notts County and Wimbledon and catching them. Then they're looking over the shoulder. And Notts County are looking over the shoulder because they've now lost the last 2 games. I think they've only taken 11 or 12 points in the last 10 games when I spoke to you since that Fleetwood game. And they've got a tough run. They've got Bradford on Thursday. They've got tough away games at Harrogate to come as well. But they have got home games to come against Cheltenham and Doncaster, which is tough. I think with every team, they're all playing each other eventually, and there is a big game up there in those playoff battles or those top 3 battles as well. Looking behind you now, aren't you, for Notts County?
Yeah, it's been not disappointing for Notts, but when you look, you have Abbott in the midfield who obviously missed out against Salford. I'm not too sure if he missed out against Colchester too. Yeah, he missed out against Colchester too. So obviously missed the last 2 games, and obviously they've lost the last 2. So I know they've got sort of technical quality that they can have, but I think for Abbott it's more not just the technical quality, but the way you can affect the game in all different zones. In the build up, out of possession, but then also building through up higher at the pitch. And Jata, I think I've said about Jata that even though he's missed big chances, he's also put big chances away. Recently, he's not scored. I think it's in his past 5 where he's not scored for Notts, and you're thinking, right, this is your centre forward that you need to rely on. And obviously David McGoldrick is still bagging him in, and I think Charlie Whittaker's been bright, and on the whole, Notts County's defence I think has also been bright. But then when obviously against Salford you get 3 put past you, and it's going to be quite difficult for Notts, I think, and Stuart Maynard to try and think of something different to get around this, because Notts County fans are not losing patience with him, but they want something maybe different to try and win games. And I think yeah, that top 3 pictures maybe out of reach for Notts, especially like I say, going to Bradford, which is going to be sold out. Cheltenham at home, they can probably win. Harrogate away, that'll be tough on a smaller pitch, and then Doncaster on the final day, looking behind, but I don't think they'll slip out.
Wimbledon are another team that have just drawn a couple and lost to Bromley at home, lost, against Morecambe away, but then beat Notts County, beat Carlisle, but draw to Barrow, lose at home to Cheltenham, decent point away at Walsall, but they probably should have had 3 with being up in that situation with minutes to go, swinging away the 1-0 up after 90 minutes, and Shamanga scores twice, beat Harrogate, draw to Doncaster. They've just kind of casually kept themselves in, really. I think that, yes, they're 3 points off the top three, but they haven't really been in phenomenal form to go and get in there. I do worry about them. I think the goal difference is a plus for them. That's an extra point, 23. And that is actually the best in the division when you look at their goal difference due to how good defensively they've been.
Yeah, I think for Wimbledon, the away records sort of let them down because at home they've been really hard to beat. They've got good wins at home, and then I think Wimbledon, you're looking at sides, around them who've got to go there, and you're thinking, yeah, it's a tough game for the opposite side, but then when it's the other way around, the sides at home and Wimbledon away, you're thinking obviously the home side's going to win, and that's normal. With the home record being better than the away, and obviously fancying the home side. But in Wimbledon's case, I don't think they've had that sort of blend away. I think when they've been away and they've lost, they've had some real dire performances, which was against Fleetwood. And, to get in there, they've got sides like Chesterfield, but also Port Vale that they can take points off and win their home games. And then, Grimsby away on the final day will be really tough for them. But I think they'll stay in there, and at the home games they'll make it really tough. And I think they'll probably beat Chesterfield and Port Vale at home, to be honest. And it's just looking at the away fixtures where grab a point and then you're safe in the playoffs.
Doncaster, for me, have never really built up a steam. Haven't really gone and done what Vale or Bradford or Walsall have done at any point. They've just been consistency quite good. To win half your games, only lose a quarter of your games. Score 62 goals, have 71 points, average about 1.7 points a game, 1.8 points a game at times as well. Win a lot of games of football, drop points now and again. They had over 30 shots against Bromley, but didn't end up winning the game. I think that's a season. That's frustrating. They're only a point behind Walsall, 2 behind Bradford with a game in hand, 5 behind Vale with a game in hand against Salford tomorrow. I think Doncaster, if they can just push on and get a few more wins in this next 5, I do think Doncaster will go and get in. They've got Salford, they've got Tranmere, Colchester, Bradford, and Notts County.
The form that Tranmere are in at the moment, they could easily, put up a fight and grab a point or even 3. The way that they're going on, and I agree with you that Doncaster this season, I think a bit maybe a 1 loss in 4 this season or a 1 loss in 3, and they've I don't think they've had a massive dip in form where they've lost a few on the bounce, but then I don't think they've had that momentum where they've won a few on the bounce, they've drawn and won, and I think they've got good squad depth around it, but then obviously losing Billy Sharp because of him getting red carded. But then you're thinking Ironside and the form that Street's been on, hopefully it can pull through for Doncaster. I don't know about Oluwu. I think he's injured actually, so losing him, and then you've only got Jay McGrath, so it's either Wood or it's either Anderson pairing him, which is, you'd say that it's a weaker sort of back line for them. But it's going to be interesting. I can't put a finger on if they will finish in that top 3 or not. 3 games that the side will have where they're playing against the top 8.
Walsall were 15 points clear in January. Low gets recalled, but I think it's bigger than that. I think that they've been very one-dimensional for a little while now, and you can have a centre forward scoring goals, but they had no shots on target against Barrow. They've not won for 10 matches, and they've won 2 in 18, drawing 8, losing 8. They did draw 4 on the spin before losing the last 2. Everybody wants to play Walsall at this moment in time. Sadler has gone from the best thing since sliced bread. Jamie Jealousy has gone from the best player in the division. Lowe, the best striker in the division, obviously recalled. These players were gods. They are absolutely heroic. They're now not good enough. And that just shows you how football can change in a 3 or 4 month period. Yes, Walsall did so well to win 9 games on the spin. Sorry, that's Pete Wow, that one, wasn't it? To win 9 games on the spin. Walsall did very well to win 9 games on the spin and did really well. But I think they've been found out a little bit. I think that they've been under pressure, and I don't think they could hold the pressure on them. That I thought that they were overachieving a little bit for the squad that they've got. I think they've got a decent one, but I don't think it's anywhere nearly worthy of winning the league or finishing in the top three. Should be challenging for the playoffs. I think Sadler's coming out after seeing a few questionable things now as well. And I think that the atmosphere has gone from a joyous one to an absolute toxic one. And they're in the top three, and they're only 4 points off the top spot. And it is still, if they win their last 4 games of the season, they should feel they can get into it. But Harrogate, Newport, Aki, and Crewe, early in the season would be in your head win, 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 win. But you think now, they dread every game they're going into. It's Vale, Bradford, Doncaster, they're going in with it a bit of a spirit, 3 hit.
Yeah, I think they need consistency up front because of obviously I think Nathan Lowe got probably his best football. We've been obviously paired with Jamil Matt. Obviously he's not there anymore, but I think Ellis Harrison, you'll want him to be also in behind and feeding off the first contacts that Matt gives. I think he scored 3 goals in 9, but obviously injuries haven't helped Harrison get the most consistent game time, and the wing backs. Barrett was doing good at the start of the season. He was, one of the top assisters, but then I think in the new year he's only assisted twice. So, and then Gordon's only got 3 goal contributions from left wing back. So there's not a real balance there for me. Creativity from the flanks, and obviously Taylor Allen pushes up. He can push in midfield and out wide. So, it's not a bad thing that you've got creativity there, but you want more than just your outside centre half. Even though he has contributed more than most centre forwards or wingers and tens in this division, you still want more from the whole side. I think Jamie Jellis is still putting decent performances, but then Charlie Lakin at the start of the season, he was sort of playing well, but then he wasn't getting the goal contributions, and he's now still not getting the goal contributions. So I think looking at the squad, I don't think there's enough goals in there, even though they have been scoring. But then there's just
goal scorers in the league still as well. It shows you how they scored 72 goals. Says how much they were in front, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, even in the new year, they still put a lot past size, and they've been getting goals from all positions. But I think what they need is just someone who can grab the ball, get forward, and just start creating. I know they've got Taylor Allen there, but even if you put a centre half there, you're easily going to be caught on the counter attack with the centre half, pushing up the way he has been. But also, I think the defence. I think Akagbe, he didn't start. And then Williams, I think he's a decent box defender and decent in the air. He's not been starting. So maybe, questionable choices from Sadler with the sort of starting formation. But then when you fell off this much, he's trying to find solutions, and maybe they aren't the right solutions. And, he's making wrong decisions because he's feeling the pressure.
Do you think if they get into the playoffs, I don't know if you remember when Bristol Rovers won 7-0? Because when Bristol Rovers went up over Northampton, bear in mind they were mid-table for a lot of that season, went on an unbelievable run. They beat, I think, Rochdale 4-3. I think they beat Vale 3-2, and they beat Scunthorpe 7-0 in the last 3 or 4 games of the season. And they just had something about them where they were winning games, and I think that's what Vale are doing right now. Bradford just timing it at the last sprint. They've just overtaken it. But like when Mo Farah used to do the 5,000 and 10,000 at the Olympics, he'd always start at the back and then come at the right time, that last furlong, that last 1K or so. If they go into the playoffs, I do worry for them. See if they go into the playoffs, would you think they're the ones that you'd want to draw? Whereas if a Grimsby and a Colchester got in, or teams below them, they're coming in with playoff. Whereas Walsall, we were top of the league by 15 points. They didn't want playoffs. They would have started. They'd had it at the start of the year, but playoffs is like a bit of dirt on the shoe.
Yeah, there's going to be an element of frustration that outsiders say that they've bottled it, which obviously they'll probably think themselves too, because the facts are there. They were 14 points clear and 11 points clear of Vale, a month ago, and Vale overtook them. And with the depleted squad, that they'll be so frustrated if they don't get in the top 3. That's the side you want. That's the side, when they're already battered. batter them even more and, get in their heads. And I just don't see how the sort of the depletedness in that squad against, a sort of momentum side, or, like a Doncaster, if they stay in there. And, like we said, Doncaster have built up decent form on the season. They haven't been too good, but they haven't been, too bad with the form. And, you think that side have been consistent, they'll easily take them. And obviously, it hasn't out when Nathan Lowe gets recalled. And, obviously it's out of their hand, but maybe could you recruit better with Ethan Wheatley? I know he highly rated at Manchester United, but for the lack of game time he's got, he's not ready for the men's game yet. Obviously, it's risky business when he hasn't had a loan move, obviously, before. But, maybe could you recruit it better?
The National League continues to do the 3 up, 3 down theme, by the way. Just going off it. Shit. Right, okay. If Walsall don't get promoted, yes or no, Matt Sadler sacked or not sacked? Because I think as fans, they wouldn't. One thing I would say, right, I don't know what the situation they were in. If they'd been like, they're a point in front of Doncaster playing a game more. Okay. So they've had the same record as Doncaster Rovers. Okay. But playing a game more, but drawing a game more. Say if Doncaster draw tomorrow, Doncaster have been that constant force all season, haven't they? They've never really been 5-10 points clear or really thinking, oh, they're running away with it. They just say 1-1, drawn, lost, 1-1. You get those teams, don't you? If they'd have been like Doncaster, they'd have been a lot happier than they are, I think. And I think that would have been, Stadler would have been a remarkable manager having the same record. It's just unfortunately their form all came in one go, and they were so good up until December, the end of December, wasn't they? And I don't think it's even a low thing. Do you think they should get rid of Sadler if they don't get up?
You asked me yes or no, but I don't know. Because if I'm a fan,
that's a no. That's a no. You said no, but I think also one thing as well. I will say on that as well, that I do think that they didn't expect to be where they are as well.
That's what I mean. Because if I'm a fan supporting Fleetwood and a Fleetwood manager, obviously that I've said about Lowe and maybe not recruiting right, maybe decision making. But if I'm a fan, I was top of the league, 15 points. As a manager, you've got to get the sort of togetherness within the squad, which we had at the start of the season, and obviously that they've still been trying to pack out the ground, and they have been packing out the ground, but still not getting the results. It's a massive disappointment. But then you have to look at the start of the season. Walsall weren't expected to be there. They had a major hit with the loan of Nathan Lowe. I don't think they could have got that loan any better. And then I just think that you think you've overachieved, sort of going back to the expectations, but then in the back of your mind, you've bottled something, and maybe Sadler's a young manager. If they do keep him, it'll be a massive learning curve for him this season. So I'm not too sure, to be honest.
Perfect. Right. Bradford City, a team that they have lost 3 of the last 6. They lost 5-4 the other day in an absolute humdinger. And I get excited in my voice when I see games like that in the Football League. Because it's from lads that support Fleetwood, we haven't had much to get excited about all season, and we get excited when we're together before the game, having something to eat, and we're going, oh, this has happened, and it's brilliant. And we were together the other day, and it was this has happened. And I think when we left each other, Bradford were 3-1 up, and I thought, oh, here we are, the coasting. And then it's 3-2. Oh, it's 3-0. And Bradford have gone 4-3 up. I'm thinking, oh, what's that done? And then I remember texting you at 4-3 thinking, oh, Bradford have done it. I get mentioned, oh yes, Swindon won 5-4. And that is League Two. That is vintage EFL. And I just love it. I live and breathe this division. I know Jack does as well. With 4 games to go, this is the best situation they have been in. Yes, they've been in playoff semi-finals. They've got home games to come against Fleetwood Town on the last day of the season, but 3 tough games before that, in my eyes, against Notts County at home, Chesterfield away, Doncaster away. Look, if you beat Doncaster away, you're beating a rival. You beat Notts County at home, you're beating a rival there for promotion. You're probably ending Notts County's quest for the top 3. You are probably denting Doncaster, because I think Doncaster have got a much better chance than Notts. If you beat Chesterfield, you're denting another team's quest for the playoffs. If you beat Fleetwood, you're kind of home.
Not doing much.
Then you Fleetwood's promotion to get to 60 points. 57 points at the minute would be, you're right there. Look, let's be honest. Fleetwood at home is probably the ideal fixture for them on that last game of the season, where Pete Wild will be loving it because you've got no pressure on them. Those 3 games in front, for me, I think Graham Alexander's experience in these situations over the years will come in handy. I think they'll do it, but I said it all season when they were top of the league at the start of the season. They won't win the league. I thought Milton Keynes might at the start. After I watched 3 or 4 games and I watched the top team first, we'll come to them in a minute. I always thought Bradford would potentially finish in that top 7. I think they're doing really well for the squad they've got, to be fair.
Well, I'm surprised that actually they've gone on this run without Andy Cook. That was my main concern.
Yeah.
When he got injured. I was thinking, Callum Kavanagh, they've not really rated. Obviously, he got a hat-trick, 2 of them from long throw-ins. Is the game finally coming back? 2 goals from long throw-ins. Kavanagh, I think, he's done decent. He's got a couple of braces. Obviously, he got the hat-trick, even though Bradford lost anyway to Swindon. But also, Bobby Poynton, they've been really impressed with, which I'm not surprised. Jack Shepherd's been a rock at the back for them, a really good loan move for him. And I think for Bradford, what they've been doing recently, packing out Valley Parade, I've really liked to see that, because obviously, beating Colchester 4-1, beating Crewe 2-0, they've made football affordable, but also it's increased their chance of making the opposition side frightened and finally, restoring the hope in that club, because obviously we've seen before, Bradford being labelled as the most depressing club in England, alongside Colchester. And now they'll pack it against Notts County, a big game. I think they'll beat Notts County. They go to Chesterfield, they'll have a sold-out away end. Doncaster away, obviously, there was a few unhappy Bradford fans about the allocation, but, they'll still get 1,500, I think, there. And then Fleetwood final day, like you said, it's a perfect opportunity. Although Pete Wow will probably be smirking and thinking, right, go on, let's ruin it, either a promotion party or a title. A fan base, can be happy again, go in League One. Graham Alexander, he's got promotion from this level. He's not done anything fancy this season. He's just been a typical League Two side where they've been decent at the back. They've gone direct when they have to, keep the ball, when they want to control games, and really got, Valley Parade a fortress. They've lost twice this season. One was Andy Crosby, I think, second game against Tranmere, and then one was against Doncaster, where obviously they're in the top 4. So I really hope they can go up, Bradford, especially for Anthony Sarcevic and obviously Graham Alexander too, ex-Codes.
Brad Halliday as well.
Yeah.
There we are as well. Port Vale, Bath, Mint, won half the games, won 5 of the last 6. They've timed the run to perfection. I think they've only lost 2 of the last 17, 18 games. Second time this season they've gone on a 10-game unbeaten streak or more. Their streaks have got them up. I think Darren Moore's a very streaky manager. They went 10 games unbeaten. They won 8, drew 2. And those 2 draws were Aki, where they were 2-0 down and scored 2 late goals, and Colchester on the Tuesday night, where I think Tavidi not won in the 93rd minute and stopped them from getting. But then after, I think they only won 1 in 7. And after that, they go 10 games unbeaten again. It's so weird with Darren Moore. I think that he's hard to stop, but he's hard to get out of the rut a little bit, as we saw last season. But I think you saw the other day, 10,000 Vale fans inside the ground made a real difference. The wonder of you and the singing glad all over, which has haunted me in the past. Believe me, as a Fleetwood fan, there, Barrow, Blackpool as well. All those three grounds at Fleetwood have struggled at in previous years in different seasons as well. For me, they've timed the run to perfection. They've got a very, very good squad, haven't they? When they beat Bradford a few weeks ago, that 2-0 win was an unbelievable victory. The other day, everything went well. Talai's been a phenomenal signing. I was surprised that League One football clubs didn't really take a punt on him. I think they probably did, but Vale basically said, we're going to go and get promoted. You might not play at a League One club. You'll play here. You'll be loved. Stockley up front. There's some Fleetwood fans that thought he was not good enough. Ironic that we're in the same division this year and Stockley's done phenomenal. Also a centre-back. At times, yes, he didn't play the other day, but Ben Hennigan has done it decent at times. You look at Deborah Smith. I think that he is a fantastic player. Smith, Hall as well on the other side as well. Sharrock scored, the other day as well. And I think that the Port Vale commentator, who's very good at what he does, he basically said, how many times has this young man provided stuff on the big occasions? And he did so again the other day. Croasdale and Garrity in midfield. The front two is phenomenal, and they just pin teams in. There's a real feel-good factor at Vale. When things go right, it really goes well. And Vale Park is a good place to be. It can be toxic when it doesn't, but these players are good players at this moment in time. They've got Carlisle away, Wimbledon away, which are tough games, but Gillingham to come at Vale Park. And they've also got Grimsby to come there as well. For me, I don't think anybody can live with them at this moment in time. I hope they get over the line. For me, they are the league champions. I said it when Walsall were 8 or 9 points clear. I thought they would. And deservedly, I think we'll win the division and go back into League One after the first time of asking. And that's a remarkable job because 12 months ago, you had beef stock, you had chicken stock. They were laughing stock because they were getting beat pillar for post. They were a toxic place to be around. And to reset the mentality, bring the players in, have the weight of expectation, hasn't always gone your way. Like a few months ago, they were 10 or 11 games unbeaten after Fleetwood and Harrogate. And they were on Darren Moore's back. That shows you the pressure that they've got. For me, fantastic. Vale will win this division and be in League One next season, in my opinion.
I agree with you, and I've not been the biggest fan of Darren Moore. Vale fans will agree he's not the best tactician. When Vale have more of the ball, it's a really tough watch because it seems like he don't know how to coach them to break a squad down. But I know obviously it's partly to do with decision making with the players, but also the tactics that Darren Moore sets out to do. And Port Vale have been a really good side when the game's been open, transitional based, counter-attacking stuff. When they've lumped it long to Stockley, they've got players like Croasdale, Garrity, Byers that can battle for the second ball. Curtis has popped up in big moments this season, and they've been good recently in big moments. You look at Crewe away where Stockley just gets him 3 yards out, heads it in against Fleetwood. Talaj nicked point in the 96th minute. Obviously, it was through our own doing, conceding a penalty, but he still stepped up at a big moment and did the job. And if you look at that side, it's probably the best in the division for me. And maybe it's not set out to be a possession-based side, but it's meant to be a side that will just always look to get the ball forward and not dominate games, but then be good in key moments. And I think also even Walters didn't really like him, but I think it was to do with his agent forced him thinking that he was bigger than what he was. He's joined the club again, and he's been brilliant in the midfield for Vale. And you mentioned the back line. Connor Hall's been great offensively. Getting up the pitch. Tom Sang when he's been on the pitch, I think he's been decent, filling in the right wing back and the right centre half. And we're not even talking about Ethan Chislett this season. He's not really been that sort of goal scoring or assisting threat that maybe we thought, but still other players have done the job for him. And I'm really pleased for Vale that hopefully they can go on and do the job, and they follow maybe Walsall's and Bradford's strategy about packing out the ground, but at the end of the day, it works. It gets bums on seats. It gets another ground that's feared to go to by opposition sides. Really, it makes him a tough to beat side, and all credit to Darren Moore because when Vale, haven't been at the best, and also it is credit to the players, obviously, that they still haven't lost. That I think other sides maybe around in Doncaster or Wimbledon, when maybe another side's got on top, or maybe they haven't been at the races, they haven't gave up and they haven't lost. They're still trying, to draw games, and effectively that's why they're top of the league currently.
One final question. Let's go through it. You say one, I'll say one. 7th, 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st.
Mm-hmm.
7th place, I'll let you go first.
Grimsby.
Where are you going? Grimsby?
Yeah.
I'll go Colchester, be different. 6th.
Notts County.
Yeah, agree. Notts County. 5th.
Wimbledon.
Yeah, I've got to agree. 4th.
Walsall.
I'm agreeing with you. 3rd.
Doncaster.
I'm going Bradford in 3rd.
2nd, Bradford.
I'm going Doncaster.
And Darren Moore will be lifting the League Two trophy.
I'm going to go for Milton Keynes because I thought they'd won it in July. No, Port Vale. It's got to be Vale.
I'm thinking Morecambe or Carlisle.
Morecambe. How many teams can still win the league technically? So how many teams are 64 points? There's only 8 clubs that can still win the league, but Vale are, for me, I think at the start of the year, there's only 4 or 5 clubs that could have won the league, and Vale have done it. Time they run to perfection. Jack, thanks for joining me, mate.
Yeah, thank you. And hopefully people don't come back to this video and maybe, Grimsby have won the league with their -1 goal difference.
And I wonder what the lowest goal difference is that's ever won the league, eh? Vale isn't too bad after the other day. It boosted it by 5 the other day as well. And to be fair, that was a big win for Vale because it's leveled the goal difference as well. And as it stands, they'd win on goals. If Bradford, say, won a game, and say, and I'd say the goal difference stayed the same overall, and Bradford caught the points up, Vale would win on goals scored, for example, as well. I know that's a lot of technicalities. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. And until next time, I will see you later.